The one, the only, Gregg Harper, former Congressman, Mississippi 3rd District. Morning, Greg. How are you, sir? It's good to see you.
Hey, Paul. It's great to be with you, and good to see you, buddy.
How was the MEC yesterday?
You know, I went by for a little while and saw you guys were there a lot, and so it looked like it was things were going good from what I saw, and I think they had a really productive day, and it's a great group of leaders there.
How's the family doing? Everybody okay? Good Christmas?
Everybody's doing really well. Christmas and New Year's, I'm sure, as it did for you, just kind of zipped by. It's a distant memory now, you know.
It is.
I got to start shopping soon.
The decorations were all there, and all of a sudden you just wake up and they're gone, and here we are. Did it happen?
It's amazing, and but it's great, and just it's. May I just say that I'm thankful that I didn't run for re-election 4 years ago.
Jeez.
Wow.
I think that's the same with a lot of people once they got out. And I'm sure it's been as bad in Washington, D.C., but I want your open and apostolic and just to be as frank as possible. But when we have people like, and God bless newly elected Congressman Ezell, but when you get freshmen who go up there, they have this idea that I want to make a difference. I want to change things. And you get up there and all of a sudden it just hits you in the face that you are lost. But your feelings about that. Can you remember back when you first went there?
Oh, look, I had all the confidence that goes with ignorance. You know, it's one of those that you go in and it is a very difficult deal. And I certainly hate it for the new members that are there. They've usually got family and friends and supporters that are there. You know, it's a special time for them to be sworn in and, you know, get their ceremonial pictures and do all of that. And so, you know, I'm sure it's very frustrating. But, yeah, there's a learning curve. And, you know, for me, you know, being from the South, I identified a bell cow early on that I felt like would not lead me off a cliff and that I could trust. And for me, that was Mike Pence. And so when I had a vote, and I was thinking, did I vote the way I was supposed to have voted? Well, I'd look up on the screen. If I'd voted the same way as Mike Pence, I knew I was in pretty good shape.
But you're led down most places, and you have no idea, especially when you're just a rookie there. Even later on, though, because the movement, the tsunami they're going to catch you up in one way or the other. I mean, You've got to start off by campaigning again and raising money, number one, in a 2-year term.
That's right. You're never not. Yeah. You're never not in a campaign mode, you know, so that's part of it with the 2-year term.
And I know it's easy because we get the feedback here being on talk radio across the state, but when you start putting a bill together and you're going to vote on a bill, the bill is highly publicized. It's a quadrillion pages long, and there's a lot of things for Mississippi, and then there's one thing for Planned Parenthood that you don't like. And, of course, it's probably no change before, and there's no way you're going to change it. And if you vote against it, you would never vote for anything. So how do you – and then you've got to go back and campaign, and there are going to be some people who are on the far right said, you voted for Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, it's true. And, look, when you're in the minority, really your main job is to vote no. I mean, that's typically what's going to happen. Yeah. And you're not going to get any legislation unless it's the renaming of a post office through that first time. It's just the reality of it. So in the House in particular, being in the majority is critical, and it's so much more fun. And, you know, for instance, my successor, Michael Guest, has been in the minority for 4 years. This will be his first opportunity to be in the majority, and life is much, much better for the Republicans when we're in the majority, no doubt.
I'm looking at the poll that I put out this morning, and it's changed a little bit, but still 71% of the people in Mississippi in this audience have said so far this morning on the Twitter poll at Paul Gallo Show that they would rather have anybody but McCarthy. It's not so much about, in my mind, Kevin McCarthy himself and his paper trail. It's just the general theme of he's a guy that's going to placate the Democrats as much as possible, and I think the people are tired of this. And I really do believe that the delegation in Washington, as well as Fox News and some others, are out of step with what the people are saying. These 20 are not certainly not heroes, but they are doing what most people, I believe, want them to do, is put some, let me cut it down to this, get a better deal find a better bargain. If McCarthy's going to be the guy, then let him know that some people are not happy about this.
Well, I'm one who doesn't believe that those 20 are heroes, Paul. There are a couple of those that I have great admiration for, like Andy Harris and Ralph Norman, who have been no's each time on that. Some of the others, Paul, if you want me to be frank,
Sure.
are permanent backbenchers, and they're not team players. A few of them are. And they're trying to get concessions that they have here. But I've never seen Kevin McCarthy placate to the Democrats.
Yeah.
I haven't
Let me
seen
ask
that
you,
at all. So I don't know where that's coming from.
What have you heard that they're asking for that you think is backbencher material? That we really don't need, and they're just putting a hissy fit up and shouldn't be?
Well, a few of them, and you could easily identify some of those.
Sure.
It doesn't matter what the concessions are. They'll never be satisfied, nor will they ever be a vote yes for McCarthy, and may not be a yes vote for anybody who's ultimately selected. And a couple of them, I think, are down to the point of asking for a few letters of the alphabet to be removed or something, that just doesn't make sense. But Kevin's made enormous steps towards trying to get this thing resolved. Having a single member being able to make a motion to vacate, really is a step, out there. And look, we spent this time going through this, and look, I can tell you, and I know many members would believe this, that people like Kevin McCarthy, Steve Scalise, and others that are in leadership have gone out of their way to help the rank-and-file members, whether they're Freedom Caucus members or whether they're just, regular conservative members. And so Kevin has done an enormous amount of work. And for me personally, he's done stuff I've never asked him to do that has helped me in re-elects, helped me, stay on the right committees. And I've had the opportunity to serve with him on the Committee on House Administration my very first term, and I found him nothing but a team player. And the Speaker has to be, and Paul, keep in mind, we have very conservative members, for instance, in Mississippi and in the Deep South, but there are some regions of the country we have Republicans that, it's a little different in their electorate there. And Kevin the Speaker, whoever that is, has to take care of all of those members. So it's not going to be a uniform deal there.
I look at it in a couple of ways here. That one of the things that makes these people, the 20, so brash and outwardly antagonistic, is none of them have committee assignments, chairmanships that they're going to lose. And on the other side, you have a lot of people who are backing McCarthy, that they're protecting their leadership position as far as chairman's concerned. And I understand that. That's politics itself. Trent Kelly, God bless him, I'm in total agreement with Trent on a lot of his policies. But here's one of the things he said.
You have 20 people demanding the unconditional surrender of, including this group of warriors. We will not unconditionally surrender. Tell us what you want. We might surrender if you tell us the terms, but just so you know, we're in the strong position. There's 201 of us and 20 of them.
I think Congressman Kelly would have reworded that. That's a general that didn't send it through his PR people first of all.
No,
you have 20 people demanding the unconditional surrender.
No surrender.
Including this group of warriors. We will not unconditionally surrender. Tell us what you want. We might surrender if you tell us the terms.
It sounds like Joe Biden confusing the hell out of the enemy.
Hey, look, let me tell you, if you're in a fight, you want Trent Kelly on your side.
Absolutely.
And look, and he's certainly going to tell it like it is. And look, this is the type thing that it makes us look weak when we can't come in and do the basic thing of electing the Speaker. And here's the thing. Scalise is supporting McCarthy. The others are supporting McCarthy. They're going to get these concessions and maybe a couple of committee appointments. But at the end of the day, I think Kevin McCarthy will win this.
You heard anything about the deal that they put together overnight last night?
There's some more, a few other concessions on paper. Tom Emmer is working that.
Let's talk more about that when we come back.
That'd be great.
Also a cut from Matt Gaetz when we return with former Congressman Gregg Harper coming up next. See, back with Gregg Harper. Let me clarify something because I said something about Ralph Norman. During the break, I put it out a little fast. So let me clarify that. He said he would vote if the deal that came together checks out the way he wants to. But he also said that this may just be round one, and for people not to get their expectations up too high. So just to counter on what you said. And the ceasefire text line, what about Dan Crenshaw? Well, Crenshaw called his fellow cohorts a terrorist, and I thought that was over the line. And people who have gone from this high in favorability in the Republican Party to, I think, a lower point is Dan Crenshaw. And then it didn't help that his news, he was in the news, what was it, a couple of 3 weeks ago, that he has benefited more from riches and the stock market as much as Nancy Pelosi. And I'm not sure how valid that was, but it wasn't a good report from Dan Crenshaw a couple of 3 weeks ago. I want to get back to this and ask you, one of the things that everybody was upset at is when you get in there as a rookie, it really doesn't matter. If you don't have a commanding position, if you're not in that inner circle, apparently the House leaders get together on the Democrats and Republicans, and they choose what bills are going to be highlighted. Those are the only ones that come up, and the deal is already done. You're just there to vote for or against, and that's almost already done behind doors.
Yeah, I don't know if that's Paul. It usually goes through the committee approach. It should, but no doubt the majority leader or the leader of the minority, they will determine which bills make it to the floor. But before that, those bills have to be, bills that are going to be, valid bills, have to go through the committee process, maybe a subcommittee, some hearings, and then get passed out of the committee. And then they go and they get into the hopper to be looked at and go there. But when it comes to a freshman coming in, most freshmen are not going to be on an A committee. An A committee would be, energy and commerce, appropriations, ways and means, and financial services. Those are typically viewed as the A ones, and they are really, the steering committee is who decides that. The steering committees are elected by region, so it's a pretty fair process. But when you have a narrow majority like we have, and you don't have your team together on the committee, that can create its own problems for you. So there's a pathway. If you come in as a freshman and you are a hard worker and a team player and you've got some good ideas and you're in the majority, you're going to have that happen. In the minority, my first term, I had a really good bill coming out of the budget committee, which, guess what? Didn't go anywhere, but then it was a good idea, but then the Democrats later did basically the same bill, and I was left out. So there's all of that that goes on, but it's important to work together as a team, and we'll see what happens. You mentioned Ralph Norman. I really like Ralph. I hope that he'll get to a yes from McCarthy, and they're getting some, I think some important concessions, some agreements that certain items will come up for vote. And Paul, if it comes up for a vote, even if it passes the House, may not get through the Senate, may not survive a veto from Biden.
Well,
so a lot of it is posturing, and a lot of it has to be long term. You have great ideas, things that are good for the country, good to take care of. Looking at a budget out of control, spending out of control. And it may take multiple Congresses, but you have to be willing to take those steps to get there.
In all fairness, you really kind of have the same argument as far as the state legislature, and one of the things that Philip Gunn will leave in his legacy is so-called or charge of lack of transparency going through the committee, not enough people into the process of making the bills. So you have that. Is that anything new in Washington, though? Is that changed in the last few years, or was it like that when you were there?
There certainly are, ways to know what's going on, and again, you need to be a team player to do that, and you don't get into name calling. You don't call people,
terrorist.
Well, that's
Come on, man.
I mean,
terrorist.
you have to be sometimes a little more diplomatic.
Let me ask you this.
So,
do you think this is more about the new members of in a different generation than it is Kevin McCarthy himself?
No, look, Kevin hasn't been there forever. When I came in as a freshman, he was just had one term under his belt.
Yeah.
He's just worked extremely hard. Nobody has raised more money for Republicans than Kevin McCarthy has, and doing that by traveling and going to events for other members. In fact, some of the ones that are voting against him sure took advantage of him raising a lot of money, for them to get elected in the first place. So, it's not an easy process. There's no way, and I'm not sure. Being speaker is a difficult job. Nobody's ever going to be completely happy because you do have to cover so much. You have to make sure the trains run on time, and sometimes that just doesn't, make people happy.
I think by and large, when you start taking that scorecard toward the end of their tenure, whenever that happens to be, we haven't had anybody who was satisfied with the speaker since Newt Gingrich.
Well, and even some were not satisfied with Newt later on.
Sure.
So that was part of it. And it's a tough deal, and I get it, and I respect that. What they've had to do, and I didn't, nobody ever. I don't even agree with myself all the time, Paul. So I mean, it's one of those things that you just know that you're going to have those going through there. I just know McCarthy, I believe, should be elected Speaker. I think that they'll get there, but there are some on that 20 that are not going to be reasonable, and I won't
understand that.
Name names, but they are. It doesn't
Somebody
matter
asked
what
me,
you do.
Do I think that the Democrats could elect their guy? I don't, but if there was this weird happening, you got to be careful because it's that close. And who the hell knows what's going to happen in Washington, D.C., but that would be a catastrophe.
Oh, it would be a disaster, yes.
I don't look at this. I know some people are looking at it, and they're beating up on the Republicans, saying that you people are I'll throw everybody out. But I just look at this as a course correction more so than a collision. I really do. And I just think the process will make Kevin McCarthy tougher, and he will listen a little bit better and understand that there is opposition out there. If you fight for it and not just giving it, I think you're a better person.
Yeah, I think though, Paul, Kevin has been one who's been very open. I've never seen anybody have a problem to go in and talk with Kevin on things. But when you have 20 that can just stop everything and disregard the wishes of, 201 people, like Trent said, what do you do? And I think I do believe that the ringleader of this 20, or the one or two that are the ringleaders,
who is the ringleader? Who are you saying are?
Well, I think Matt Gaetz thinks he's the ringleader, and so I think they really thought Kevin would just give up and just stop and give in. And they'd go to another selection for speaker, and he's not. He's going to keep going, and I think at this point, the 20 seem very unreasonable. If indeed he's given the concessions they're saying he's given, they need to seal the deal, go ahead and elect Kevin, and let's maybe do something novel and swear in the new members, and let's try to get to work. I mean, we've got critical issues that need to be done.
They were even talking about getting somebody who's not an elected member for a couple of minutes there on one of the channels. I thought that would be really unique.
Yeah.
We're almost out of time, but I do want to ask you this. Explain real quickly the consensus candidate and legally how that works.
Well, who is the consensus, candidate? I mean,
that would be Kevin McCarthy.
It's Kevin McCarthy.
Right.
And so when you have the conference elect him, and remember in the conference, I think there were maybe, I can't remember the number that voted for somebody on secret ballot, not for Kevin. It was maybe 31, but at least 11 of those did decide to vote for Kevin when it came to the floor. The other 20 are the ones that are going to need some convincing, and like I said, there's a couple of them that it wouldn't matter what you did; they're not going to get on board, and they're not team players, and they're.
Yeah.
I mean,
are we talking about the Rules Committee making a rule that says, look, after 10th or 11th, we have a consensus candidate and no more?
Well, you could, you can't really take that chance because that's how Jeffries could wind up being elected speaker. So I think we'll see what happens on the 12th ballot. Hopefully, Kevin will get it. It may take one or two more times, but at the end of the day, I'll predict that Kevin McCarthy will be the speaker.
I asked you to be upfront with me, and you were absolutely positively, and I'm glad you came in, sir.
Enjoyed it,
very,
always.
very much.
Thanks.
Always
appreciate it,
great.
Paul.
We'll know about 11 o'clock this morning. That's
true.
when they get back with the next vote D.C. time, it's noon. Gregg Harper, former Congressman, 3rd District. Jeffrey Hewitt, Jeff and Meg coming in. We'll talk lottery, and then Dixon Williams